Red Rocket, Tangerine, The Florida Project, Anora. These are all Sean Baker films. But have you ever heard of these? Takeout, Prince of Broadway? Well, it just so happens that those are now in the infamous Criterion Collection. Let's talk about Sean Baker. In last week's live stream, someone brought to my attention this 1971 crime mystery thriller, Clute. Brought me to the Criterion Collection to look at these amazing grabs from this really good-looking film shot by the late and great Gordon Willis, same cinematographer as The Godfather. But then it got me looking around on the Criterion Collection, and I realized Sean Baker is on here, and he's got 3 movies on here. One of them, the latest and greatest, Anora. We should all know it because it swept this past year's award shows. But these 2 I was unfamiliar with, sadly. We have Prince of Broadway and Takeout. And I was like, weird, I don't know what these are. When we look at Takeout, this is from 2004, many years before the movie that I first was introduced to Sean Baker, 2015's Tangerine. But we'll come back to this because I want to back up and talk about Takeout. This is from 2004. You'll notice that Sean Baker co-wrote it, co-directed it with Shi Ching-sao. I'm probably definitely brutalized that name pronunciation. But notice he was also the cinematographer of this thing. This was his first big breakout film. Prior to this, he had done 1 feature film, 1 short film, and edited another short film. So this was kind of the one that put him on the map, certainly so because now it's in the infamous Criterion Collection. I want you to pay attention to a couple things here. The first one is look at the budget of this film, $3,000. This is not a short film. This is a feature film where the entire budget was $3,000, and to this day they've grossed nearly $70,000 worldwide. They made over 23 times the amount of money back. Imagine going to the casino with $3,000 in your pocket and walking out with nearly $70,000. That's one hell of a day at the casinos, right? Definitely nominated, won a couple awards, the Dreammaker Award for Best Film at the Nashville Film Fest. But I want us to look at what he chose to shoot this film on. The Sony DSR PD-150. This is an infamous DVCAM. Arguably might be the foundations for the FX6 and the FX9 with its brand new ND filter switch and exposure dial. But this is why I say all the time why I love having the Sony FX6 with the 28-135 f4 servo zoom and that amazing automatic variable ND is because it just makes your life easier. Let's check out the bio of what this movie is. It's an illegal Chinese immigrant falls behind on payments on an enormous smuggling debt. Ming Ding has only until the end of the day to come up with the money. Now, this is a topic that still stands true today, over 20 years later, right? You're talking about illegal Chinese immigrant, and it's during the time of right after 9/11, so everyone is super racist at that time. I mean, what's really changed, right? But quite interesting to notice that this is a story that is so raw and true that it still is very, very relevant today in 2025. But notice this part. Ming Ding has only until the end of the day to come up with the money. Now, this is another important pattern that we'll see from Sean Baker. I love what Criterion Collection writes on the Criterion profile website at criterion.com. Sean Baker, with his raw DIY style and vibrantly collaborative process, the Oscar-winning writer-director has become contemporary cinema's foremost chronicler of American dreamers and schemers. Contemporary cinema's chronicler. I love that, and I love this phrase, American dreamers and schemers, because not only is that what all of Sean Baker's characters are and what his movies are about, but honestly, that's what Sean Baker himself really is. An American dreamer and schemer. All DIY filmmakers truly are dreamers and schemers. I mean, look at Robert Rodriguez in his beginning of his heyday with El Mariachi. He made this action-packed feature film El Mariachi for only $7,000. He's famously known for that. It's a dreamer and schemer, right? That's what it's all about. I mean, that really is kind of like the underdog story. Always. It's dreaming and scheming, and I absolutely love that, and I think it rings true to the character of any DIY filmmaker or cinematographer. And I don't mean schemer in the negative context either, because he is the king of DIY filmmaking. Quite literally, they shot Tangerine on iPhone 5S's with the Moondog Labs anamorphic adapter. quite gnarly. I mean, this is the movie that I know him from, and well, it's probably because this one was brought to fruition thanks to the infamous Duplass brothers. Magnolia Pictures was the distributor on it, and Netflix put it out there, and that's how I think we all came to know about it. But what's also interesting about Tangerine, much like 2004's Takeout, Tangerine also takes place within one day. And that brings us to the first idea of what Sean Baker plans out to make a successful movie. I think what's most often overlooked, ingredient number one, and that is the story. If you give your average Joe Schmo on the street enough time, he or she can create one great movie, right? Anybody can create one great story or idea. What separates the legends from the amateurs, in my opinion, is the ability to consistently knock out success after success after success after success. That's the tricky part, right? That's the true tell of if you are a real artist or not. Anybody can be a one-hit wonder. History has already proven that. So if we look at this Sean Baker character, this American dreamer and schemer, his next big hit, also now in the Criterion Collection, this Prince of Broadway film from 2008. A New York street hustler specializing in name-brand knockoffs finds his highly profitable game suddenly complicated when his ex-girlfriend shows up toting the son he never knew he had. Not only directed by Sean Baker, this time co-written with Darren Dean, but he also is the cinematographer on it. What did he shoot this one on? Also, this one won way more awards than Takeout did. There's so many awards this film has won. We see that this was shot on the Panasonic AG HVX 200, yet another DVCAM. And when we pop over and we take a look at some of the screen grabs from Takeout, this isn't exactly Roger Deakins level cinematography here. But at the same time, some of these images are quite nice. I, for one, absolutely love this image. I mean, this is wonderful. Now, when we pop over and we look at the Prince of Broadway, this one seems to be a little bit more artistic. I mean, look at these grabs. I mean, this frame alone, it tells a story. And that's what a good image, in my opinion, can do. One image can just tell a story instantly. And we see that with this guy here. Notice this guy was also in Anora and was also in Takeout. So obviously we can tell that we don't want to negate cinematography totally. We would never do that. This is a cinematography channel. I'm not saying just only start looking at story alone. I want to get back to Takeout because he talks about how Ming Ding has only until the end of the day to come up with the money. Tangerine takes place in one day. So now we're going to get into these three simple ideas provided by Sean Baker himself of what I believe are some of the three key ingredients to creating a great story. Back when I was in grad school getting my master's in theater, we took a class on writing, as you do, as a playwriting class. And the teacher in there taught us that every good story at its core is just simply a chase. It's a chase of some kind, and you look at something like Mad Max, or you look at, any great cartoon story, that they're just constantly chasing each other around. And then when Marianne got her MFA at Cal State for screenwriting, they studied there what an infamous thing called the hero's journey. So every great story has to be of some sort of chase.
So I presented them with three very thin ideas. I said, this is all I have. I think that it has to take place on one day because of our budget. We don't want any wardrobe changes. It'll be easier for us on our budget to have it take place in one day. Two, I feel that there should be somebody looking for somebody else. Maybe, or two people trying to find each other. I don't know the genre. Maybe it's a love story. Maybe it's a thriller. I don't know, but I'm seeing two people looking for each other. And the third idea, I want everybody, my ensemble cast, to converge in some sort of climactic confrontation at donut time, because donut time is such a landmark.
So let's back up, because I think all three of these are genius, and it applies to so many great films and just successful stories. So the first one, this idea of make sure it all takes place in one day. Now, this is primarily a great idea for all DIY, ultra shoestring budget filmmakers. Certainly, I guess, what I refer to as dog timers, right? If you know, you know. His philosophy behind it is that you don't have to worry about different wardrobes, different costumes, and different locations for that matter. It's quite brilliant, right? It really is brilliant. And he has a pattern of doing that with his films. We certainly see that in Takeout and Tangerine. Then there's the second idea of the chase, or in his ideas of a search, the hero's journey, right? Two people looking for something, maybe looking for someone else, two people looking for each other, some sort of idea, and it all boils back to what you're taught in any writing class, apparently of any master's program, right? Is really honing in into what is that journey, what is the chase, what are they searching for? Sometimes that's done internally as well, but it is a little bit easier to pull it off as an external thing. And we see it in all of his films, every single one, from Takeout to Prince of Broadway, Tangerine, The Florida Project, Red Rocket, and certainly Anora. You know, there's lots of different ideas behind that. You could say that, well, the chase is love, like this idea of true love or something. You know, you could get foofy about it, or you could get very obvious about it as well. And then the third idea of ending at this kind of, well, he kind of refers to it as an iconic location. So for his story of Tangerine being what it is about, you know, a hooker tears through Tinseltown on Christmas Eve searching for the pimp who broke her heart. That is about a specific idea of a location. You know, Sean Baker even said that he chose the location before he even chose the actors or the story, and these lead actresses were street cast.
I cast my own films along with my wife and producer, Samantha, and it's my proudest credit on the movie, quite honestly, because I love my cast so much. I just keep my eyes open.
Basically, we would go up and introduce ourselves to people on the street, and we found Maya. And there was something about her. She just stuck out amongst her friends.
On that specific location, certainly back in that era of 2014, 2015, it's on Highland and Santa Monica. And that donut shop, which now I believe has been replaced by a Trejo's Tacos. Shout out to Danny Trejo. I think that I could be wrong about that. Anyways, I'm almost positive that the donut place doesn't exist anymore.
What was once Donut Time and now is actually owned by Danny Trejo, and he's made it into Trejo's Coffee and Donuts.
But if you think about it, if we think about any great film, let's think about the spaghetti westerns. You think about The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, or, you know, any of those films, they all end at some huge iconic location. And obviously, it becomes iconic over time as the movie gains notoriety and popularity. But the reality is the location itself is iconic within the context of the story as well. We just don't understand it as, we don't identify it as iconic as an audience, because the definition of iconic in terms of the story could be a little bit different than the definition of iconic of the way I'm referring to it, or the way you might be thinking of something as iconic. What it means is that this chase, this search, this journey has to end at a very purposeful location, and that will make it more impactful. And those three ideas that Sean Baker just kind of willy-nilly gives out in this AFI interview, I think is, it seems so basic and simple, but I think those are three key ingredients that a lot of aspiring writers and directors and filmmakers and cinematographers, all of us as filmmakers, we tend to kind of overlook those three simple ideas. But I love, too, the reality of the budgets of these things. You know, shooting his first big films on just DV camcorders. You know, I mean, he eventually moved up to the world of these Panavision E series being used on the Florida Project. Something else wonderful about the Florida Project, the day scenes were shot on film, and then the night scenes were reserved for the Arri Alexa Mini, which I thought was kind of cool. And then it shows in here one scene was shot on the Apple iPhone 6S with that Moondog Labs anamorphic adapter. So he had upgraded from the 5S to the 6S, but he was still holding on to that Moondog Labs anamorphic adapter, which I just find that's hilarious. But anyways, the man certainly is an American dreamer and schemer in terms of DIY filmmaking. And I just absolutely love the three ideas behind it, because, you know, you see these simple films, only $3,000 to make Takeout. And then he goes from that to making this, I mean, literally awards sweeping breakthrough film of Anora. The track record is there. His own American dreaming and scheming is there. You know, I absolutely love that. And if we just remember those three simple ideas, it can be there for all of us as well.